This week on ANN, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency enters its second week of relief efforts in the wake of Ecuador's massive earthquake.
ADRA also responds to a fire that displaced more than 1,000 families in the Philippines.
And a renowned choir from an Adventist university helps to honor the memory of a police officer who was fatally shot in the U.S. state of Ohio.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, as the nation of Ecuador begins to recover from the devastating earthquake that struck on April 16, workers from the Adventist Development and Relief Agency are providing quality care. It is estimated that the 7.8 magnitude earthquake caused the deaths of 654 people, injured approximately 16,600, and has left 130 people missing. In addition to the growing number of casualties, nearly 7,000 buildings have been destroyed and 25,000 residents have been rendered homeless and are now living in shelters. For the past 2 weeks, ADRA International and ADRA Ecuador have distributed more than 100 tons, or 90 metric tons, of vital relief supplies to residents who are in some of the most heavily affected areas. ADRA Ecuador has more.
More than 1,000 families are now homeless in the Philippines due to a massive fire that ripped through the city of Navotas last week. Fortunately, no deaths have been reported and injuries have been minimal. The section of the city that was affected is primarily made up of slums, and the families who have lost their homes are currently living in local schools or evacuation centers. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency in the Philippines has distributed goods to 430 families who are in evacuation centers as the local government determines how to find permanent housing solutions for the affected families.
During a day that was designated for service by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America, a church in the U.S. state of Ohio and a choir from an Adventist university in Alabama delivered an impromptu ministry for local law enforcement officers. On April 16, which was known as the Day of Compassion and Hope, a group of youth and young adults from the Central Seventh-day Adventist Church in the city of Columbus fed the homeless in their community. But their outreach did not stop there. After serving the homeless, the church's pastor, John Boston, led the group to a nearby police station to help local officers honor the memory of a veteran police officer who was fatally shot during a standoff. SWAT officer Stephen Smith was a veteran in the Columbus Police Department, where Boston also serves as a police chaplain. Among the group of young people were members of the Oakwood University Aeolians who sang a rendition of the United States' national anthem in Smith's memory. According to Boston, the police officer who witnessed the singing were moved to tears. Youth from Central Church and the Aeolians also hugged the officers and thanked them for their service. Central Seventh-day Adventist Church sent the following clip of the Aeolians singing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Shines and bright stars through the perilous fight.
In a deliberate attempt to help minister to the 1 billion people around the world who live with a disability, Adventist members took time to reflect on the best ways to serve those with special needs. Last Saturday, April 23, was designated by leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church as Special Needs Day. During the denomination's General Conference session last July, leaders created the Special Needs Ministries Department in order to fulfill the church's renewed emphasis on reaching people with disabilities. According to Larry Evans, who serves as the ministry's director, Special Needs Day was designed to remind Adventist members about the value and dignity of people with special needs. Evans said, quote, "At the heart of the Adventist Initiative for Special Needs Ministries is the desire to assure those with special needs that all are gifted, needed, treasured, and loved."
Young adults in the U.S. state of Ohio weren't the only participants in the church's Day of Compassion and Hope. Members of all ages in Maryland also participated in the day of service through random acts of kindness. Throughout the day, volunteers distributed flowers, hugs, and balloons around the city of Columbia on April 16. Some of the participants included members of a young adult group called Regeneration. At first, the group's leader, Lauren Lombard, expressed skepticism about doing such small acts, but she went on to say, quote, "I was thinking I don't see this as having so much value as feeding the homeless or something more tangible, but something so simple as giving out a balloon to a kid or hugs, they go away with a smile on their face and run into someone else and cause a chain reaction," end quote. Other volunteers also prepared meals for residents of a crisis intervention center, while others surprised 8 families in need with $200 worth of groceries, clothes, and toys. Jose Cortez Jr., who serves as Associate Director of Evangelism for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America, spoke on the ultimate goal of the day of service. He said, quote, "We plan the Day of Hope and Compassion with the objective of celebrating what we as a church are meant to be doing every day, sharing a hope for a better future and facilitating hope in the here and now by blessing those around us in practical ways."
A city in the U.S. state of Texas last week experienced unprecedented rain that caused severe flooding and led to the deaths of 5 people and damaged at least 1,000 homes. Emergency crews conducted 1,200 high-water rescues in the city of Houston as a result of the flood. Adventist Community Services, or ACS, responded to the crisis by providing emergency supplies, including clothes, hygienic items, blankets, and diapers to 662 affected residents. ACS also managed a food distribution center that provided families with canned food.
When leaders of a medical center in the U.S. state of California decided to cease the center's operations due to financial struggles, Adventist Health entered an agreement with the center to take over its rural clinics. According to Adventist Health's press release, although the Colusa Regional Medical Center closed on April 22, the acquisition ensures that medical care would continue for community members who live close to the rural clinics. Adventist Health is a nonprofit integrated health delivery system that serves communities in California, Hawaii, Oregon, and Washington. Jeff Eller, President and Chief Executive Officer of Adventist Health's Northern California region, said, quote, "As a faith-based organization, we are eager to share our mission of inspiring health, wholeness, and hope." And Bob Beeler, Adventist Health's Vice President for Market Development, Mergers, and Acquisitions, added, "We have identified a sustainable solution to provide quality care to community members."
Media producers throughout the church's Southern Pacific territory have teamed up to create more than 300 television programs in 1 month. Project Hope, which was launched on April 10, is the result of a collaborative effort between Hope Channel's South Pacific Division and the Trans-Pacific Union Mission. Some of the programs will feature topics including health, music, and relationships. Behind the scenes of the project are volunteers from Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Vanuatu, and Solomon Islands. The Trans-Pacific Union Mission sent this report.
The vision of our Union for this Quinquennium is to create a vibrant Adventist movement, living our hope in Jesus and transforming the Pacific. And that's why we've come up with Project Hope. In this project, we are bringing people from around this region, that is from Samoa, Tonga, Vanuatu, and the Solomons, and so in the region.
Tell us, what is so unique about this Hope Project, different from all the rest that's been happening around the world?
Yeah, this time we've got 5 countries, 5 different countries, 5 different languages, 5 different cultures, all converging on that one place here in Fiji. So we're getting some in Samoan and Fijian and Bislama and Pidgin, and so it makes the editing room a really interesting place to be. But it's also what makes this such a great project, a really unique project. You can bring different cultures and converging into one place to make programs that will really make a vibrant union, vibrant disciples, and disciples of the kingdom.
Coming up, are certain passages of the Bible older than we previously thought? Stay tuned for the answer.
May I work in with you, young fella?
Go for it.
That's the way you do it. Got to put a little weight on it. But I'll put it back up here for you.
Welcome back. Earlier this month, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences released a report indicating that key biblical texts may be older than what experts may have previously thought. The findings question whether certain biblical texts were compiled before or after the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BC.
For more on the significance of these findings, I sat down with Elias Priscil de Souza from the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Biblical Research Institute. Elias, thank you so much for joining us this week. Can you tell us a little bit about this study and what it tells us about when the Bible was written?
I think this new finding only confirms the reivindication of the claims of the Bible itself. The Bible claims to have been written, parts of it or larger portions of it, far before the destruction of Jerusalem. And this finding just confirms that.
Does it affect the way that we see the Bible or the way that we read the Bible?
No, it doesn't, because we believe in the Bible as Word of God, and this does not depend on archaeological discoveries for that kind of conviction or conclusion. However, it's important because it confirms the Bible, and from an apologetic point of view, in our dialogue with those who do not believe the Bible, this can be very helpful.
So it affirms the way we've always viewed the Bible.
Exactly.
Does it affirm the way we think the Bible was written or inspired?
It does not, of course, endorses the inspiration of the Bible, because this is not something that comes from outside evidences, but comes from the Bible itself. However, it's important because it confirms what the Bible itself claims.
What else did you take away from this study that you could share with us?
Well, as you probably know, there's a large segment of scholarship that contends that the Bible, most of the Old Testament, was written after the destruction of the temple by the Babylonians. And they claim that the literacy was basically unknown before the time, where these finds and some others, like the Gezer calendar, which is a small inscription dated to the 10th century BC, seals with the name of Jezebel, with the name of Baruch, son of the servant of Jeremiah, and also the Ketef Hinnom inscriptions. All of these documents were written before the destruction of Jerusalem. And this proves that literacy was known before the destruction of the temple, which is in harmony with the Bible's own claims, that it was written before the time.
Thank you. This has been really interesting.
Okay.
The nation of Nepal is still in the recovery process after it was rocked by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake on April 25, 2015 that killed nearly 8,800 people and injured 22,000. While the Adventist Development and Relief Agency was among the first humanitarian agencies to respond with relief, ADRA has committed itself to providing sustainable aid for the upcoming years. Currently, ADRA Germany has played a role in the rebuilding of maternity hospitals and schools in the country's Kavre district. ADRA has also ensured that school-age children are able to maintain their studies in temporary learning centers. The agency is also creating a strategy for the next 3 to 5 years to help Nepal rebuild its infrastructure. So far, ADRA has helped 170,000 residents within 8 of Nepal's affected districts.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church is preparing to host a forum that will help religious freedom activists in the United States equip themselves to communicate their message and persuade lawmakers to support international religious liberty initiatives. The International Religious Freedom Summit will take place in the nation's capital in one of the city's top museums, the Newseum. The event's organizer, Dwayne Leslie, who serves as Associate Director of the Church's Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department, spoke on the reality for professionals who advocate for this fundamental right. He said, quote, "The idea of religious freedom, what it really means and how it relates to other civil rights, has become a divisive issue within American politics and society over the past few years." He went on to say, quote, "Not surprisingly then, it has also become increasingly difficult for religious freedom advocates to build consensus around religious liberty concerns and to promote positive legislative action," end quote. The summit, which is also sponsored by the museum's Religious Freedom Center, will bring together public leaders and religious liberty advocates to consider current challenges to religious freedom around the world and explore ways to collaborate on shared goals. The event is scheduled to take place on May 24.
And finally in the news this week, a unique outreach project for the elderly organized by the Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Italy earlier this month drew the attention of political figures from the city of Cesena. The local officials, including Stefano Bonaccini, governor of the Emilia-Romagna region, Paolo Lucchi, mayor of Cesena, Leah Montalti, regional councilor, and Simona Benedetti, municipal councilor, participated in Pranza Sieme, or Lunch Together. The weekly project was created for older residents in the city who are lonely and in need of social relationships. Lunch Together creates an opportunity for the elderly of Cesena to have good food and fellowship with other community members. The project has operated since 2009 and takes place once a week from November to April in a facility that belongs to the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the region. Lunch Together is run by ADRA volunteers and is sponsored by the Directorate of Social Policies of the Municipality of Cesena, along with local authorities. One of the project's organizers said, quote, "Our guests have an age range from 70 to 90 years approximately. Every Wednesday from November to April, the Lunch Together restaurant opens its doors and, thanks to a dozen volunteers, rooms are filled with 50 to 80 people who gather to share a hearty meal and to enjoy a pleasant time together," end quote. After their meals, attendees are given the opportunity to listen to presentations from local accountants, doctors, and nurses on various topics, including health and taxes. Leaders of Lunch Together also organize annual trips for the local residents.
Coming up, learn about Instagram's most recent update.
But up next, find out how you can join the growing virtual community of the Global Adventist Internet Network.
Welcome back. While the church's communication and technology experts physically meet together once a year for the denomination's GAIN conference, those same professionals are now able to virtually interact with each other at any time.
Britt Harding, web manager for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, has more in this week's Tech Corner.
One thing I love about technology is finding new tools, and today's Tech Corner highlights a communication tool that has become vital in our office. When you work on a team, communication is important, and whether we are all in the same office or spread around the world, we have found Slack to be an invaluable asset. Slack gives your team a space to talk and share, either in a group or one-on-one. When you sign up for Slack, you first create a space for your team. Once your team is created, you can invite as many people as you want to join. To start with, Slack includes a channel called General, but you're not limited to that. Channels are easy to create and allow your team to organize your conversations by topic. In our account, we have channels for Adventist.org, ANN Stories, and social media, to name a few. In addition to group channels, you can have private conversations with individual team members or create private groups that can only be seen by those invited. But Slack becomes even more powerful with integrations. You can add integrations with MailChimp, Trello, GitHub, Dropbox, and hundreds of other services. While Slack offers some paid plans with even more features, the free plan includes everything we've talked about here, so there's no reason not to give it a try for your team. After the 2016 GAIN conference in February, we got to wondering how we could keep the conversations and interactions going throughout the year. And then it dawned on us, a Slack channel. With all this talk about Slack, I'm sure you want to give this one a try. So visit gain.adventist.org/Slack to sign up today. Share your questions, insights, and projects with fellow communication and technology professionals, and help others out as well. The channel is just getting started, so come join the conversation.
For this week's social media report, Angela Taipe breaks down Instagram's recent update, which affects what you see on your timeline.
Recently, Instagram announced a change coming to what you will see in your feed when you log in. Up until now, it has used a chronologically ordered feed to show you what your friends post in the exact order that they post it. Now it joins Facebook and Twitter by adopting an algorithm-based approach. Each algorithm works differently, but they share some similarities, and it's important to understand that. Instead of showing you the thousands of posts your Facebook friends share every day, you probably see a maximum of just a few hundred based on what content you engage with, which friends you interact with the most, what your friends are talking about, and so much more. And so if there's a person or a page that you want to keep seeing on Facebook, make sure to like one of their posts from time to time, just to let Facebook know that you're still interested in what they have to say. Twitter will show you the best tweets first, based on who you interact with the most and the popularity of their tweets. And the Instagram algorithm is expected to be determined by the popularity of the post, your relationship with the user posting, the timeliness, and what you share directly with other users. But a good way to make sure you don't miss any posts from your favorite account is to click on the dots in the top right corner of one of their posts and select Turn on Post Notifications. But as you see your Instagram feed begin to change, let us know what you think about it by tweeting us at Adventist News or Adventist Church.
And finally for today's program, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn about the steps Adventist pioneers took to make the church an official denomination.
During much of this week in 1861, on the dates April 26 through 29, Seventh-day Adventist leaders met in Battle Creek, Michigan, where just 7 months earlier in 1860 they had adopted the name Seventh-day Adventist. And at that time they also agreed that the printing press operated by James White should be incorporated. It took time, however, to pass the legal hurdles required by Michigan state law, and the April 1861 meeting was chiefly to complete incorporation of what became the Seventh-day Adventist Publishing Association. But some church leaders took the chance to press for additional reforms to the very embryonic organization of the nascent movement. Key figures were J.H. Wagoner, Joseph Bates, James White, J.B. Frisbee, J.N. Loughborough, M.E. Cornell, and John Byington. And a few weeks later, they published in the church paper, the Review and Herald, a co-authored summary of recommendations for all local congregations of Seventh-day Adventists. They proposed first a more thorough organization of local churches so that all would have at least one elder, one deacon, and a church clerk. Second, they proposed formal organization of what they called state or district conferences, made up of multiple local churches, with the conferences to authorize and license Seventh-day Adventist ministers. And third, they urged the holding of what they called general conferences that would represent the will of all the various local churches and state conferences. They also recommended that all local churches keep written records of their business transactions and membership lists and issue letters of fellowship in the transfer of members from one church to another. Now, many Seventh-day Adventists were still too wary of organization to accept these proposals at the time, but they were an important stepping stone to the organization of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists a little more than 2 years later in May 1863. And the basic principles have guided the denomination ever since. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter @Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verses 1 and 2. The passage says, "Those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This I declare about the Lord. He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust Him."
Amen. That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.